Jasmine, star of 90 Day Fiancé, was arrested. Recently, Jasmine, a well-known character on the reality show 90 Day Fiancé, was at the center of a dramatic event. Gino, her ex-husband, claimed that Jasmine had stolen his belongings. After the accusation was made public, she was taken into custody by the police. In court, Gino presented evidence that proved Jasmine had indeed embezzled her stuff, despite her repeated claims during her detention that "I did not take any of her property." After being astounded by the evidence, the court gave Jasmine a 5-year prison sentence. The judge made a point of emphasizing justice and the rule of law. As Jasmine was being transported to jail, she was unable to control her emotions. No one could shine a light on her, and despite her bitter tears, the hand of the law was cruel and long. This episode serves as a reminder that in the eyes of justice and the law, emotional pleas or personal appeals are ineffective. People have always known the name Jasmine. She had millions of followers who watched every step of her complex love life as a recognizable face on 90 Day Fiancé. She would soon discover, however, that fame could not protect her from the harsh realities of life, much alone the law. On a clear autumn morning, it all started. When the door knocked, Jasmine was at home enjoying her morning coffee and browsing social media. She was unaware that 2 policemen were standing behind it, their features grim and papers clenched in their fists. "Jasmine Reynolds?" one of them inquired. She answered, "Yes, that's me," attempting to hide the glimmer of worry that was starting to seep into her chest. "You have been placed under arrest for stealing your ex-husband Gino Moretti's property." Jasmine's thoughts raced. Embezzlement? Real estate? All of those late-night fights with Gino, the acrimonious battles about property, and the way their lives had fallen apart on national TV flashed across her mind. Her voice was firm but unsteady as she attempted to speak. She protested, "I didn't take any of his property." However, her words were ignored. She was led out the residence by the officers after they had read her rights and placed her in handcuffs. She had once embraced the cameras outside, but now they were swarming her like vultures, flashing lights and filming every tear that fell down her cheek. The tension was evident at the courthouse. Rumors were circulating like wildfire among the journalists occupying every available space in the room. Gino showed up, composed but determined, carrying a heavy folder that weighed more than the tension in the room. Gino said, "Your Honor," in a firm voice, "I am here to submit evidence that demonstrates Jasmine Reynolds has stolen goods from me in violation of the law. This is about justice, not about sentimentality." The judge's desk was arranged with the bank statements, paperwork, and photographs one after the other. As the judge examined the evidence, the court remained silent, his face unreadable. In an attempt to influence the verdict, Jasmine's defense attorney spoke, argued, and made references to Jasmine's personality, emotional condition, and prior charity endeavors. The judge, however, slowly shook his head. "Ms. The evidence presented is clear," he stated at last, his forceful voice resonating throughout the courtroom. "In the perspective of the law, public popularity or personal feelings are irrelevant. Justice must be administered in a fair and unbiased manner." The room seemed to have swayed under Jasmine's feet. Her heart was racing. She glanced to Gino, who returned her look with a silent sense of validation rather than rage. The sentence followed. 5 years behind bars. She felt the words strike her like a bolt of thunder. She sensed the courtroom walls closing in on her. She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Her face was streaming with hot, uncontrollable tears. Here, the world she had always known, the cameras, the celebrity, the applauding fans, did not matter. The law was all that mattered in this chamber. She took one last look around before being dragged away. She reflected about her following, her fame from reality TV, and the glitzy life she had led while always being watched by the public. She could no longer be saved by any of it. Like a physical force, the weight of her decisions and the results of her deeds weighed down on her. She sat on the chilly metal bench in the detention cell and gazed at the dreary walls. She kept thinking about the judge's remarks and the echoes of the courtroom. Justice does not yield to individual entreaties, tears, charm, or fame. Jasmine realized with bitter clarity. It is unbiased, uncompromising, and occasionally cruel. Jasmine, however, also discovered an odd clarity in the silence of her confinement. For the first time, she really thought about what she had done, what she had decided, and how she had come to be here. She was not protected by either denial or fame. A ray of hope for the future could only come from taking responsibility and learning from her mistakes. Outside, supporters engaged in continuous debate over the events. Social media was ablaze with rumors and opinion, and the media was still buzzing. Jasmine's name became known for a warning story about the unwavering strength of justice and the law over celebrity, popularity, and personal pleas rather than for romance or drama. Jasmine's life therefore took a drastic change. It might be 5 years before she could hope to return to the world she knew after 5 years of introspection and realization of the repercussions of her actions. One lesson seemed painfully evident from it all. The law, unbiased and unforgiving, throws its long shadow regardless of how bright your star shines. And occasionally, cries and entreaties are insufficient to break free from its hold. But the palm trees along the avenue were bathed in a gentle golden glow as the sun rose over Miami's peaceful streets. At her kitchen table, Jasmine Pineda was sipping a cup of coffee that had long ago gone cold. Her heart was heavy, her thoughts disorganized. The past few months had been a roller coaster, a tempest of feelings, disappointment, and heartache. For years, Gino Palazzolo had been a part of her life. But despite their once bright connection, it had also fallen apart due to miscommunications, accusations, and extended silence. Jasmine could not deny that a part of her still longed for him, though, in spite of everything. She had strong memories of the early days, including the late-night talks, the laughs, and the plans they had discussed in whispers under the stars. However, life had put them to the test in unexpected ways. The pressures of Gino's profession, her personal goals, and cultural differences had caused conflicts that neither of them understood how to resolve. Naturally, there had also been the public backlash, including the disagreements that were shared on social media, the rumors that were whispered among acquaintances, and the resulting painful alienation. However, she was browsing through her phone when a notification appeared, one that she had simultaneously been dreading and looking forward to. Gino's message. Jasmine, can we talk? I need to see you. A beat skipped across her heart. Is he the one? Is he truly prepared to give it another go? To save herself from another potential heartbreak, a part of her wanted to disregard it. However, there was a deeper, more sensitive part of me that just wanted to hear his voice and experience the warmth of his presence once more. Jasmine found herself trembling as she made her way to the tiny cafe where they had decided to meet later that afternoon. The familiar smell of fresh coffee blended with the salty aroma of the surrounding ocean, and the air was heavy with humidity. She saw him right away, Gino, standing clumsily close to the door, his hands in his pockets, a faint scowl on his face as he looked about for her. Hey, he said in a hesitant but sincere tone. Jasmine forced a grin and said, hello. Away from the busy crowd, they took a seat at a corner table and remained silent for a short while. The eerie quiet served as a reminder that, in spite of everything, they were still connected to one another. The silence was finally broken by Gino. Jasmine, I am aware that things have ended horribly in the past. I can't go back in time, but I know I wounded you. However, I've been thinking a lot, and I don't want to lose you. Never again. A knot formed in Jasmine's throat. Hearing him speak with such openness made her heart hurt in unexpected ways, even though she had envisioned this moment innumerable times, some in which she yelled at him for all the agony he had caused, others in which she fled. As she nervously traced the lip of her coffee cup with her fingers, she said, I've missed you too. But it's not that easy, Gino. We still have a lot to work out after hurting each other. He nodded, looking for a glimmer of optimism in her eyes. I understand. And I'm prepared to go to any lengths. This time, I want to show that we can make it work. No falsehoods, no games, just truth. They talked, really talked for the next hour. About the times they misinterpreted one another, their worries, their doubts, and the dreams they still shared. It was raw, messy, and emotional. By the time they left the cafe, there was a shaky but indisputable sense of hope. Tears were shed, and laughter periodically broke the tension. Jasmine and Gino started spending more time together during the ensuing weeks. They took lengthy walks on the beach, went back to their old favorite haunts, and even made dinner together while giggling over small cooking blunders. Every moment was a tiny step toward restoring the previously damaged trust. Reconciliation, however, was never easy. Every now and then, the shadow of past betrayals obscured their relationships. Old disagreements reappeared, and envy flared. However, every obstacle turned into a chance to improve their communication, listen more carefully, and comprehend one another in previously unimaginable ways. Gino clasped Jasmine's hand in his one evening when the sun was setting and the sky was turning pink and orange. He muttered, "I know it won't be perfect. However, I'm prepared to defend us. Are you?" Jasmine saw the genuineness and affection she had always experienced beneath the surface when she looked into his eyes. She gave his hand a light squeeze. "Yes, I am willing. However, only if we pledge to always be truthful with one another." Jasmine and Gino thus started a new chapter in their journey, one that was full of forgiveness, optimism, and the tentative but lovely potential of love being rekindled under the last rays of a Miami sunset. For the first time in a long time, they felt prepared to face the path ahead together, even though they knew it would not be without challenges. Ultimately, it was about developing together, learning from the past, and continuing to choose one another despite the uncertainty of the path. They both experienced the silent thrill of second chances as they strolled hand in hand toward the city's glittering lights, knowing that this time they would battle for the love they nearly lost. But throughout 90 Day Fiancé, the last resort, Jasmine Pineda was a natural. She had captivated audiences with every turn of her turbulent love life because she was charismatic, bold, and not hesitant to voice her opinions. This time, however, the drama was more convoluted than anyone could have imagined and was personal. It all started in Miami on a beautiful Thursday morning. After a very demanding filming season, Jasmine had been attempting to maintain a low profile by concentrating on her little business and getting back in touch with friends. She made a self-promise not to let the cameras to follow her wherever. However, as usual, life had other ideas. That morning, Jasmine felt strange. Fatigue dragged her down like a lead blanket, and her stomach roiled in ways she couldn't explain. She dismissed it as stress at first. She had plenty of it, after all. But as the day went on, the uneasiness became into a persistent concern. By nightfall, she made the decision to take an exam she had stashed in her bathroom cabinet. She was astonished at the outcome. Good. However, this was a revelation that would completely upend her world, not just a simple shock. Jasmine was expecting a child. However, the reality of that pregnancy was nuanced. Her ex-fiancé, Gino Palazzolo, who had long since gone on and established a life without her, was not the father. It was a complete surprise, a man whose name she had never even mentioned out loud to anyone, a fleeting acquaintance she had formed months earlier. Jasmine sat at her kitchen table the following morning, her hands encircling a mug of coffee that she hadn't even tasted. She could think of 1,000 possible outcomes. Must she tell Gino? Should she notify her relatives? Or should she attempt to handle this on her own? Every decision seemed heartbreaking. Every possibility looked unattainable. Meanwhile, the production crew learned of her predicament. Although Jasmine wasn't sure she wanted her personal life to be the next big story, they had been filming a reunion special and were excited for a dramatic turn of events. Nevertheless, cameras entered her house, and Jasmine realized she had to confront the reality for the sake of herself and the millions of people who had followed her journey. There was a combination of surprise and interest on set when Jasmine arrived. Her normally vivacious energy was subdued with caution, and her confident smile was tinged with strain, as her co-stars observed. The host, noticing a problem, walked over to her softly. "Is everything well, Jasmine?" Jasmine's eyes filled with tears as she let out a steady breath. Her voice was barely above a whisper as she confessed, I'm pregnant. There was silence in the room. Her fragility, which she rarely let others see, was captured by cameras that zoomed in on her face. What about the father? Knowing that this moment would define the episode, the host pressed cautiously. Jasmine hesitated. Her hands were tangled uncomfortably on her lap as she glanced down at them. It's not Gino, she finally stated. As she spoke, the words felt thick, almost alien. Someone else is involved. Her fellow cast members responded to the information right away. They looked shocked, worried, and even judgmental. Some tried to assist her, while others murmured behind her back. In addition to the weight of their looks, Jasmine experienced an odd sense of relief because, at last, the secret she had kept to herself was now public knowledge. The plot developed both on and off camera over the course of the following few days. To debate her alternatives, Jasmine met with her closest friends. They talked about co-parenting, keeping the pregnancy a secret, and possibly moving away completely. Every discussion was intense, full of debates, tears, and sincere counsel. Jasmine, you have to do what's right for you and your baby, a friend gently reminded her. Meanwhile, Gino saw the stories online and contacted her without knowing the whole picture. Jasmine feared the chat, but he was calm and inquisitive. Finally, out of sight of the cameras, they met at a peaceful cafe. There was tension in the air. Ever the practical one? Gino inquired. Is it true? Jasmine gave a slow nod. Indeed. It's not yours, and I need you to know that. Gino took a long breath, taking in the information. His voice was a mixture of relief and regret, not rage. All right, he said plainly. I appreciate you telling me. They experienced a sense of closure despite their complex past. Jasmine came to the realization that she didn't have to live in constant fear of Gino's or anybody else's criticism. The life developing within her and the decisions she would make as a mother were what counted. Jasmine made the decision to take charge of her story as the season finale drew near. She told her experience to the cameras as a demonstration of her resiliency and self-discovery rather than as a confession. She talked candidly about her failures, the unexpected turns of love, and her optimism for the future. Her voice remained firm as she stated, life doesn't always follow a script. It surprises you sometimes. And occasionally, those unexpected events give you strength you weren't aware you possessed. For the first time in weeks, Jasmine had a real smile by the end of the scene. She felt a great sense of duty and hope as she gazed down at her expanding belly. Although she was aware that she wouldn't be traveling alone, she also understood that the path ahead would not be simple. Viewers were left with a tale of bravery, honesty, and the erratic path of life and love as the cameras faded to dark. Even if the audience didn't know who her baby's father was, Jasmine's message was unmistakable. Her past did not define her. Her decisions, her fortitude, and her heart would determine her future and that of her child. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amelia, and I hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video.